Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Rachel Patterson, and I'm coming to you from the Moon Books Facebook page today. Hopefully you all found me. That's Eric singing in the background. Hey, Gypsy. If you haven't seen me before, I would love for everyone to say hello on the comments, just so that I know, oh, there you are. Just so I know that you're there and I'm not completely on my own or just talking to a blank screen, so that I know that it works. Good afternoon, Ness. Good afternoon, Susie. Good afternoon, Maria. Hello, Petronella. Good afternoon, Sue. Let's get Eric sorted. He's got a new tune. He's buried it somewhere. Did you forget where you put it? Yeah. Good afternoon, Karen. Good afternoon, Helen. Good afternoon, Luna. Hello to Anne as well. Good afternoon, Jackie. Wow, lots and lots of lovely people. Hello to Rebecca. Hello, good day to Mel from Australia. Hello to my husband sitting on the other side of the table. Yes, thank you for that. Good morning to Jodie. Good afternoon to Heather and Eric. Yes, he's here. Hopefully he'll settle down. Hello to Paula. Yeah, he settled down. He has his new tune and he likes to bury it, only he buries it in full sight. It's really not got the hang of this burying business. Good afternoon, Louisa. Good afternoon, Dawn. Yeah, everyone's saying hello to Eric and hope you're paying attention. Hopefully he's going to go for a snooze. Hopefully, otherwise it'll be a total pain. So it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK. I have no idea what time it is on the other side of the globe. Morning, I believe. Welcome to my online book launch. For obvious reasons, things have to be online at the moment, but we love that because it means that nobody has to leave their home or the comfort of their armchair, and nobody has to, jump on planes and things like that. Not that you would for a book launch, but there you go. Hello, Teresa. So it's lovely to be able to connect with you all from different parts of the world, which is fantastic. And thank you to Moonbooks, my publisher, for hosting this. So today I'll do a little bit of Mel, 3 a.m. Gosh, you need a star or a bottle of wine or something. 5 o'clock with Petronella. Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it, actually, to think that it's all different times in different places of the world. Very, very bizarre. So I'll do a little bit of a rundown of what we're all here for. The element of earth. Petronella's behind her ironing board. Oh no, that's really boring. Really, really boring. So this is the book, latest book out, due out the end of this month. Hello to Susan. I will run through what's in the book, then I'll do some bit of a chat about the element of earth, working with it, what it covers, all the blurb. As always, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the comments as we go through, and I will do my very best to answer them for you. And as always, if I don't know the answer, I'll make it up. I won't, I promise I don't make the answers up. Good afternoon to Fiona. And then I've also got a spell that I will show you. Really, really simple finances spell, because we could probably all do with a bit of that. Good afternoon, Sue. So this is, I believe we worked out, this is my 20th book to be published, which is quite bizarre in itself. And I did, end of December, I tipped over book sales of over 50,000, which is just totally overwhelming, and my little brain can't really cope with that. So thank you to everyone that buys my books and continues to support me. You guys are absolute superstars. Good afternoon to Lani. So yes, this is my 20th book to be published. It is part of my Kitchen Witchcraft series. Moonbooks were very kind and allowing me to have my little Kitchen Witchcraft series. This is the 4th one, she says, looking on the back, hoping it's going to tell me because I can't remember. I think it's the 4th one. The series also includes spells and charms, garden magic and crystal magic. So this is the fourth one in my Little Kitchen Witchcraft series. It is also the first of a mini series within the series. This is going to get confusing, isn't it? Because obviously I can't just write a book about the element of earth. We have to have all the other elements as well, don't we? So they will follow. They will follow. Good afternoon to Helen, to Chris, to Rachel. Thank you, and to Tess, and thank you, everyone. Yes, this one's out at the end of the month, Jackie. So fab that you have them all. Yeah, 50,000 books. It's a bit mad, isn't it? Very, very strange to think that all those people will have one of my books on their shelf or propping up their wonky kitchen table. As long as it's useful, that's fine. So yes, I thought, you know what, the elements are such a key thing when you're working witchcraft that it would be interesting to delve into each one individually rather than writing a book about them all collectively, which is, you know, they work together so brilliantly anyway, don't they? I thought it'd be interesting to delve into them individually. For some reason, the element of earth jumped first. There is no particular reason for it other than it felt like the right one to do. Thank you, everybody. So thank you. Yeah, 50,000 books. Well, you guys, thank you to you guys. You guys made it happen. I really couldn't afford to buy 50,000 of my own books. Yeah, that would be mad. So we're going to have a look at this one. I will tell you what's in the book. It's, you know, quite a decent size. So we start with the basics. We start with the elemental U, which I will cover in more detail in a moment. I cover earth energy, earth magic, time, symbols, time as in TikTok, not time as in her, symbols, the pentagram, because that is a real earth symbol, invoking and banishing pentagrams to keep silent, which is from the Witch's Pyramid, and that's the one for earth. Earth instruments, grounding, obviously, because that's really key, isn't it, to connect with earth. Grounding crystals, grounding herbs, grounding food. Centering, which kind of comes hand in hand with grounding, really. The elementals, the Archangel Uriel, King Gob, and he has such a good name, King Gob. It's probably not pronounced like that at all. And gnomes, of course, because they are the earth elementals. And then I do a section on ancestors and spirits of the land, and I look at all the different places that I associate with the element of earth, such as caves and forests, valleys, fields, meadows. I'm going to cover those a bit later on as well, with some hopefully more unusual places that you might not have thought of as well. So that is a whole list of those. And then I deal with the practical stuff. Soil and earth, because, you know, that's earth. Salt, graveyard dirt, stones and pebbles, sand, clay. Then there's herbs and plants that are associated with the element of earth, because every single herb and plant and crystal is associated with a particular element. So I cover the earth ones. Cover roots, nature mandalas, incense and essential oils that are associated with the element of earth. Some witch bottles that you can try, tree magic, because obviously that's very earth-centered, dryads and tree spirits, divas and plant spirits, sticks and twigs, magical food, and obviously there are some cake and baking recipes in there, because, you know, it's me. Earth crystals, and then earth animals, because there's quite a lot of animals that are associated with the element of earth as well, so I cover those. Earth deities, because again, lots of earth deities that are particularly associated with the element of earth and that are useful to work with if you are focusing on that element. Calling in the quarters and earth rituals. Then there's a little section on earth spells, colour magic, bit of earth divination, some astrology in there as well, because obviously some of the zodiac signs are associated with the element of earth. There's a little bit about saving planet Earth, because boy, does she need our help. And then it finishes with a little earth blessing. So, and the bark from Eric. Yes, thank you. Thank you for all your comments, people. Have them all so easy to read. Thank you. looking forward to this one. Hoping to reconnect with the earth. These past few months have been hard. Yeah, they have, haven't they? They have been unreal, let's face it. Luna says it's not a complete book without a cake recipe. No, definitely not. Not one of mine, anyway. Good afternoon, Alan. Good afternoon, Vicky. Good afternoon, Sylvie. Sue says, seems like an age since I stood in a circle and called a quarter. Yes, I've done it online. I've done it in Zoom meetings. Haven't actually stood and done it in a group of people for well over a year now, which is a bit mad, isn't it? Louisa's missing my cakes. I'm missing you too, Louisa. We're missing a mermaid. Rebecca, sounds really in-depth. I've covered as much as I can within here, you know, everything that I could think of that would be useful for working with the element. So let's have a little bit of a delve into it. At some point throughout the chat, at some point in the next 50 minutes, I will do a giveaway too. I will pick someone at random and send them a book. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, I will post it to you. Signed copy, and these are my early pre-author copies, so they are very special, and I will sign them. Sue says, hi Pete and Eric, did not know if you'd be there today. Yep, they are my trusty sidekicks. Oh, here, you can hear it. I don't know what he's grumbling about. You're just a grumpy old man, aren't you? Talking to the dog, not the husband. Hi, Irene. Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for the year will improve, won't it? If we do as we're told, it'll improve. Helen is hoping to come down for ritual this year. Yes, yes, we will. Yes, let us know when you can, when you are coming down, Helen. We'll do one especially for you. So yes, I will give away one of these, and it will probably be to the person that asks a decent question. There's a challenge for you. So let's have, I'm going to stop moving that around because, you know, I'm doing this just in case my publisher is watching. Trevor, look, see, I'm waving it around. I'm doing marketing stuff. So let's have a look a bit more in depth at it. But as I say, if you've got any questions about Earth or elements or witchcraft or me or any of that, just chuck the questions in the comments. Irene has ordered, should come in the end of January. Yes, official publication date is the 29th of January, I believe. Amazon have been messing about with the dates, but hopefully it will sort itself out. So I open the book with, I say a poem. It's not a poem, it's my poetry. Earth beneath me, sky above me, air around me, Mother Earth to ground me. Thank you. That was a nice side from Eric. So the elements are the original foundation from which all other things are made, really, by unification or transformation. The ancients divided the world into 4 basic elements, which we know as earth, air, fire, and water. These 4 elements are vital to our survival. Without one of them, we couldn't and wouldn't exist, really. As a witch, we use them in ritual, energy work, healing, spell work. You can count them as 5. There are 4 elements, obviously, earth, air, fire, water. 5 if you count ether or spirit. And they make up really the base foundation for all of magic. I think as human beings, we are probably drawn more to one element than the others. Fire, for me, which is the next one that I'm writing currently. They each have their own unique characteristics and properties that we can tap into. They can be used individually, or you can mix and match them to add in the power. Luna says, I think with this pandemic, it's Mother Earth's way of letting us all heal. So this year we can reconnect in a renewed way. That's how I'm trying to look at it. Yep, that's a very, very healthy and good idea, way to look at it, Luna. Definitely, definitely. I think as humans, having a balance of the elements within us or within the things that we do and create is useful. Difficult to achieve, but useful. Earth is nature, isn't it? It's our mother, it's our body. We walk upon it every day. We grow our food within its soil. And at the end of it all, we bury our dead within its silent embrace. So it is a whole cycle of things, isn't it? It is the element of stability, it is foundation, it's strength and growth and prosperity in all of its forms. It is the densest of the elements, and that does sound like I'm insulting it. I'm not. But it is physically manifested in stones, rocks, crystals and gems, obviously. It's a heavy and it's a passive element. It has associations with darkness, thickness and silence. It also rules physical things and places, such as the body, nature, chasms, caves, groves, fields, standing stones, mountains. In most traditions, it is located at the north. Whenever you're working in ritual or in circle, it's associated with midnight and the time of silence. So it is quite, I think, perhaps one of the most powerful, that they've all got their own different things, haven't they? Chris says, how do you come up with your ideas to write about magically? Usually because I work with it, because I work with magic, and I think, or witchcraft in general, because it's a big part of my life. Sometimes people ask me to write things in particular, but I think the ideas just come to me really because I'm using it, because I'm working with it. I do all of this stuff. I wouldn't write a book about something that I didn't use or I didn't work with. And I wouldn't write a book about something that I hadn't actually experienced myself. So it is really from my regular daily practices. Earth is the base, says Luna. Yes, it is. Mel, will this elemental series lead into your old gods book you were talking about the other day? Oh, well, okay. Now I've got 2 contracts signed with Moon Books at the moment. The next one I'm writing is the element of fire. And then I will be writing ancient gods and goddesses of ancient Britain. Get that title around the right way. So that will probably be after the fire one, but I have contracts for both of them, so they will make it there. Lani has a connection with fire, but over the last few months have been drawn to earth. I think we do. We all go through phases in life, don't we? And things change and situations change. So we will be drawn to different elements. Teresa's a water one, spent most of my life in that realm. But since began seriously working on her path, consistently get messages to work with the earth. It's been very healing work, grounding me and helping me to move forward. Yes, I think whatever elements you work with, earth is generally the one that puts your feet back on the ground. Vicky says, how does one find a publisher to work with? I was very lucky with Moon Books, but you have to basically send them your manuscripts. Send them in your manuscript and keep your fingers crossed, basically. Sometimes it can take a long time to find a publisher. Sometimes you just, and I was really lucky with Moon Books. So you literally do an internet search for a publisher that does books within the realm that you're writing about, and send your manuscript in. If they like it, well, if they don't, move on to the next publisher. So it's a bit hit and miss sometimes. Louisa Fiona, can't wait for Gods and Goddesses. Yes, it is. That's a journey, a personal journey for me. It's where my pathway's taking me at the moment. But let's go back to earth for this one. Tess, where do you pre-order this book? Amazon. Yes, you can order. You can pre-order it on Amazon. All of the big bookstores, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, all of the usual places, Book Depository. Yeah, anywhere that you normally get your books from, you can pre-order it. Luna is air sign but drawn to fire. There's no fire without air, so that makes sense. Yes, you'll often find that too. If it's not just one that you're focusing on, 2 will combine together. It's interesting. It's very interesting to, and the book gives suggestions actually on looking at how you can find out what you personally associate with. But I am going to give you some hints and tips, obviously. Hello, Josh. Joshua, I was always surprised when that earth was associated with midnight. It's fun to hear traditional associations. Yeah, but there's lots of associations on there. There are lots of associations, and they're not right or wrong. You have to trust your own intuition on Sarah used to identify as Earth because I'm Taurus, Earth-based, but now drawn to water and fire. We do. I think we do change as you go through different phases of your life. Louisa says she's very drawn to water. Louisa's a mermaid. Not a big surprise. Karen was amazed by how many people didn't stand barefoot on the earth. Oh, I know, isn't it so simple, isn't it? So simple. Rebecca says we can regularly get out of balance with our elements. Any tips on rebalancing? There's a thing. So obviously I'm focusing on earth today, but let's have a look at that and how you can, as I say, we are quite often more aligned with one element than another. It might be affected by the zodiac sun sign that you were born under, or even your moon sign may affect it as well. It may also be because of the work you do or the life you lead, because it's not all about magic. Every single mundane task that we do carries a correspondence to one of the elements. The challenge is to create a balance in between ourselves and between all of the 4 elements. I would suggest making a list. Make a list to see which element you are heavy in and which ones you might need to work a little bit more with to help you bring about balance. Literally just make a list and write down all of the things that you do during the day. And I mean everything from showering, cleaning your teeth, making your breakfast, reading a book, doing the housework, gardening, ironing. All of those chores associate with a particular element. So if you can then write a list with the 4 elements and write all those chores, put them in the list that you think the element they're associated with, you'll see with the lists which ones you're light on and which ones you're heavier in, and it gives you a bit of an insight into how you can perhaps bring about more balance in your daily everyday life just by working with chores, really. Jackie is drawn to learn about alchemy, but in the spiritual sense. So would these books be suitable and how would they best be used? Well, elements come into alchemy a lot anyway, don't they? Although alchemy itself is quite a different kind of set of things to work with. These element books will help you. They will help you bring about balance within yourself, but also balance within your magic. They can be read totally, but they can just be jumped into as well. They can be used as reference books, so you can jump in and pick out bits and pieces that you want. So let's have a look at the everyday things. What would you suggest? Will you stop grumbling? What would you suggest? What chores, everyday chores, do you think associate with the element of earth? So I've got gardening, because to me that's a bit of an obvious one. Rebecca had never associated chores with the elements before. Yeah, absolutely. Everything that we do will have an element associated to it. Susie, how do you handle the heavy feeling that comes with the element of earth? I would suggest if that's what you get, then it's probably not one of the ones that you work with very often. So you need to balance it. You will just get the balance of it, really. It is all scales, really. But gardening is definitely an earth one. So Susie, I would look at your list and see what you're out of balance with. Charity work, I associate with the element of earth. Working, dog singing to me, working in the greenhouse or visiting a garden centre. Can you come around here? Come on. Right, let's stop the dog from squeaking. So working in the greenhouse or visiting a garden centre, obviously you're connected with gardening as well. Although cooking, it's a kind of a dual one. I think cooking is fire and earth, because obviously if you're cooking something, you're using heat with it. But I think when you're prepping the vegetables and the herbs, it's the definite earth element. Reading, I associate as well. I associate reading with the element of earth. But it could, again, that one has a bit of air with it as well, because you're using your brain. Walking the dog, obviously, is an element of earth. Recycling, I always see as the element of earth as well, because you're helping Mother Earth and you are returning things. So recycling does that to me. Housework, I always see as an earth element as well, with perhaps a little bit of air in it as well when you're doing dusting and things. Picking up litter, that's got to be earth element, hasn't it? Going for a walk, because you're outside, you're in nature. Visiting, obviously, sacred or ancient sites. But I also think going to the library as well, to me, is a bit of an earth one, but again with that bit of air as well. So there is, you know, associations. Rachel works with fire every day, the lovely pixie made jewellery. Would metals like silver associate with the earth? I think for me, metals definitely, because they're all found in the earth, aren't they? That's where they start their life, is in the earth. Probably with a bit of fire thrown in as well, because the metal has to be heated, doesn't it? So, but yes, definitely more earth-centered with a bit of fire associated as well. Karen associates walking with earth and air. Yes, because you're walking on the earth and then you've got the air around you. Jackie says working with crystals. Yep, crystals are very, very much associated with the earth, like metals. So yes, definitely. So have a think. Write a list of work, Alan, working with pendulums. Yep, nice. Write yourself a list with things, not just the magical things that you do, but the everyday, ordinary stuff that you do. I mean, washing up, obviously, element of water. Ironing, probably, I would say fire, that one, isn't it? But have a look and see, and write them all in, write 4 columns, earth, air, fire, water, and write them down and see which ones you're balanced in and which ones you aren't. It's interesting. It is an interesting exercise to do. Chris says working with tarot. Yeah, I would say earth with that as well, but probably a bit of air thrown in there as well, because you're using your, maybe even spirit as well with tarot, wouldn't it? Because you're using your connection. Rachel, it's good. I work with, you do work with beautiful crystals and stones as well, don't you? Yeah, I think you're very earthy, Rachel. I think you're all right there. Think as well that every element is a positive or a negative. So as we work with positives and negatives, like the sun and the moon and masculine and feminine, energy has opposites as well. Those are receptive and projective. Every single crystal you work with will be receptive or projective, other than the few which like to throw a spanner in the works, which are a bit of both. The flow of energy for the element of earth is receptive. So receptive energy is, it is feminine, Mother Earth, soothing, passive, spiritual, calming, cold, attracting, and magnetic. So receptive energy is good for absorbing negative energy and feelings, but it's also good for meditation, grounding, and psychic abilities. We can connect with the element of earth in so many ways. Chris suggests working with animals. Yes, that would definitely be earth. Karen, what about painting? Yeah, I think it would include all the elements in that, wouldn't it, Karen? Because of the materials you use, because of the, you're using your intuition, aren't you? And your creative side, which is fire. And he keeps trying to eat my sleeves. Yeah, that's quite a nice mix, isn't it, painting? Mel says, you mentioned charity could be associated with earth. What about personal interactions like cuddling a partner, patting pets, caring for offspring? That's all very nurturing, isn't it? So yes, definitely earth there. Yeah, definitely. Sylvie, are pets related to a specific element? Well, different animals are. All different animals are related. Have a corresponding element depending what the animal is. Your association is the element of total it. Yeah, just winked at me then. So have a think and have a look at what you do on a daily basis, and see, you know, it's not just about getting your hands dirty. Putting your hands in the soil or your feet on the soil is brilliant for connecting with Mother Earth and for grounding. But trees, plants, all of that. But there are so many other sort of different chores that we do every day. But then if you look at magic, there's quite a few different types of magic that I associate with the element of earth. Susan loves that Eric's contributing to the conversation. This is his mad time of the day. It's probably the wrong time to schedule live, because this is the time of the day when he really wants quite a lot of attention. So different types of magic that I associate with the element of earth. Burying is burying, is perhaps not picking berries, burying in the soil. Perhaps an obvious one, but burying your petitions in the soil, burying spells at crossroads, crossroads being very earth element too, so you've got a double whammy there. Spell remnants can be buried. Be mindful though, please only bury biodegradable items. Yeah, that's an obvious one, isn't it? Planting is also good. Quite a lot of spells involve planting seeds as part of spell work, particularly in the spring and, you know, in bulk that time of the year when we plant things for magical spells. But I think it also covers the planting of ideas as well. You can plant things beside or under bigger plants or trees to get that more mature growth magic. Susie says, why are crossroads so earthy? I imagine because crossroads originally were always just dirt tracks. So you've got the soil element with it. Crossroads were always the place where people met. They were it's an in-between place as well. Crossroads is an in-between place. I will come on to crossroads in a minute. There is a section on crossroads in there. I'll get to that. Lots to cover. Magnets. I think magnets are a bit earth and they're a bit fire, but they are used in attraction magic and spells to bring things together or to keep people together or to keep something coming in. Images, photos, puppets, all related to earth element. Stones and pebbles, obviously, earth. But they can be used in spell work quite a lot, soaking up your negative vibes and throwing them away, or holding stones, tying petitions to them, placing a stone on top of petitions, and hagstones, obviously very magical. Tree magic, huge subject all on its own. Every single tree, like every single plant, has its own magical connection and correspondence. Knot or cord magic. Long stems of grass work really well actually to do knot magic with. If you can get the really long stems, you can tie them and make spells from them, or weave them to make spells from them. Oh, you are grumpy. I think curses and hexes as well and bindings are all kind of earth magic. Rachel said, would most root vegetables be more related to earth? Yeah, pretty much all of them are, Rachel. They're all earth element ones. Every single food ingredient has an element associated with it as well. And of course, garden magic. You can work magic in your garden or even with your houseplants, which are obviously earth. I tend to associate witch bottles with earth as well because they're filled quite often with soil or pebbles, flour, things that absorb negative energy. So they're very earthy for me. And sigils and symbols, because they can be drawn with soil, sand, salt. Perfect for earth magic. Mel says, from big things, little things grow. Yeah, but it works both ways, that one, doesn't it? Symbols as well. I think perhaps the traditional symbols for the elements are the triangles. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. That's the symbol for earth. So it's a triangle pointing downwards with a line across it. And that's thank you to Freya's Cauldron, because that's candle holders from them. It is the downward pointing triangle, which represents the female form, but it does apparently. So the downward triangle represents the female form, and the line shows that it is denser than water. So water is represented by a downward triangle without the line. So that's the symbol, triangle symbol for Earth, and that's the reason why it's a triangle. I think if you want to represent Earth on your altar, you've got lots of options. There's a, soil, obvious one. Salt is very, very earthy, and it's used quite often in ritual. On Susie says the womb. Yeah, I think that's what it is. The downward triangle is supposedly representative of the womb. Hope mine's not that shape. Rocks and pebbles, leaves, twigs, seeds and nuts, although each type of plant will have its own corresponding element as a general whole. Seeds and nuts element. Roots, obviously, you couldn't get more earthy than that, really, could you? Luna says the cone of power going down into the earth. Nice, nice. And when you're working with magical tools or other things on your altar, there is one very recognisable one which represents the element of earth, and that's the pentagram. 5-pointed star without the circle, obviously. With the circle, it is with the circle, it's a pentacle. Without the circle, it's pentagram. Louisa says twigs. Yeah, Louisa loves twigs. Spices, yeah, different spices have different elements. So something fiery like mustard or paprika would be fire element. And Alan says herbs as well. I will cover herbs in a second. I'm very aware that I've got a lot to talk about and not that much time left. Each herb will have its own representative too. But the pentagram, if you're looking for specific tools or altar items, the pentagram often represents the element of earth, but obviously it covers all 5 of them because each point is one of the elements: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. The pentagram is ancient. First used apparently around 3500 BC at Ur of the Chaldees in ancient Mesopotamia. No, I don't personally remember it. Not quite that old, but it has been used as a. Do you mind? Do you want to take over the talk? It has been used as a symbol by lots and lots of different cultures and lots of different religions going back throughout history. Right, Tess says, in terms of using earth and earth in magic, I know we have discussed this in your Friday sessions. Yep, catch me every Friday morning on my author page, 9 a.m. However, I've noticed in some other books they call for cemetery soil to be added to your spells. Is this because of connection with spirits or the connection with the certain fertility of the soil? Depending on the spell, both. I do actually cover graveyard dirt in this book as well. Yeah, got to be really careful when you're using graveyard soil. You've got to get it from the right place, but that is covered. But I think, yes, it is got lots of different representations, but it will depend on whose grave you get the graveyard dirt from as well. But yeah, I think it is very grounding, but it is very magical because you're connecting with the underworld. You're connecting with that place in between, and that's what brings it. Jackie had spotlights designed in the form of a pentacle in the new healing room. Oh, fantastic. What a brilliant idea. So that's the pentagram. That is often associated with the element of earth. The witches in Wicca, the witches pyramid, covers the 4 elements plus that spirit. It's not an actual physical pyramid, but it forms the shape of one. Each point represents the elements as the pentagram does. Earth represents to keep silent. The thought being that once magic is worked, you won't discuss it, so as not to add any interference to the energy. I think it's really just about being mindful of how you speak. Words have power and can affect others in very strong ways. I must admit, although my training was Wiccan, I don't tend to keep with that now because let's face it, I I share all my spell work with you lot. So I definitely don't keep silent about it. But it's got to be personal choice on that. There are instruments associated with the elements too. The earth obvious one is the drum, one of my favourites. The sound of the drum is very primal, can send you on a journey or meditation very, very easily. But I think a lot of the percussion instruments work with it, tambourines and blocks and things as well. Grounding and centering is a given, really, I think, isn't it? And I have covered that in other talks. The elementals. Now, that's a whole other subject again itself, but I do cover it in the book. They are the energies of nature itself. They are forces of the elements. They are true, pure energy. And each one has the characteristic of the element they belong to. They can take on any shape, any size or any form to deal with any particular task. They can charge us with energy. They can work with us on a physical, mental, emotional, and a spiritual level. I think learning to work with the elementals can help us tune in to connect with the energy of nature around us more easily. The elementals interweave their energy patterns to create and keep all of nature and all of life on our planet, really. Very, very powerful. They have nothing to obstruct them. They can move through matter, they can connect, they can help us with our own spiritual growth as well and evolution. They've again been talked about in various different cultures throughout history. There are four elementals, obviously, to go with the 4 elements, but for each 4 type of elementals, there are 4 elemental kings and then 4 elemental archangels. The earth elementals are known as gnomes. Let's kind of throw out the window the general kind of Disney idea of what you think a gnome would look like. As I say, elementals are raw energy. So they are the spirit of the earth. Forget the fairy tale story. The elemental gnome is very earthy, but their form and their shape can vary immensely, and they can change to suit any situation. They maintain our planet, the structure itself. They create forests, the trees, plants, flowers. They design all the crystals, the rocks. They are very skilled craftsmen, and they work very closely with nature. They are the beings that put the energy into all of the rocks, the pebbles, the crystals, the earth. An earth elemental can help us tune to nature, but they can also help us to maintain our own physical bodies, and also to help develop our own senses. Working with them can be really, really fantastic. Determination, appreciation, spontaneity, it can help. But we're looking at the balance here. We mentioned being unbalanced with the elements before. If you work too much with the earth elemental, you might find yourself being a bit cynical or skeptical, or maybe even overly cautious. So there is a checks and measures here. Fiona says, what's the difference between a gnome and a brownie? The fairy world is huge, huge. Brownies tend to be associated with the house. They are associated with the home and the house. The gnome is an elemental, which is quite a different thing. Something I think you need to look at separately from the fairy world, really. Rebecca says, how would you invoke the elementals? Meditation is the best way in, but meditation from a shape-shifting point of view as well helps. If you can actually take on the form of that raw energy, that helps. There are meditations in the book. Jackie, when working with the earth element, would it be better to have a mini altar outside in the garden? And is it true that when you ask an elemental for a favour, that you need to be careful what you wish for, as they ask for something in return? They are part of the fairy world, so you do have to be careful when working with elementals. Go into it with your eyes wide open, definitely. But yes, I think with all of the elementals, working with them outside is much, much easier to connect than working indoors. So we try very hard not to frighten people with what we do, so I cannot understand why earth from a grave should be used. Surely any earth from garden or field is fine. Soil is soil, and it's got the elements of the magic that comes with the element of earth with it. Graveyard dirt is different. It does have a different energy with it, but I do have suggestions for using graveyard dirt, but without actually desecrating someone's grave. So it's definitely something you need to think about quite properly, I think. Karen, when we needed help to save our local green space, we did a ritual to ask for their help. Once done, everything fell into place. The knowledge we needed arrived, and it was amazing. We saved it. Hurrah! Fantastic! Dawn, I love working with crystals, but I'm having an issue with harm none and the mining of them. Have you ever come across a crystal that felt traumatized from coming within the earth, and how would you help heal that crystal? I have been lucky enough not to actually have that crystals do pick up negative energy, but they can pick it up from people in the shop, or people that have picked it up and looked at it, or kids that put their snotty little fingers on it in the shop. There are a lot of companies now that are being very, very mindful of mining with crystals. So you need to source a shop that can tell you where it came from and that it has been mined eco-friendly. But helping to heal the crystal, cleanse it, and look after it, basically. Mel has used so much dirt from her grandmother's grave since she was a witch herself. It seems fitting. Yeah, you have to know who the graveyard dirt's coming from. And I will do a chat about graveyard dirt, because it's a whole separate other subject. But with the elementals, you have this kind of hierarchy. So you've got the gnomes, and then you've got the king, King Gob, ruler of the elemental gnomes. He is said to rule with a magic sword, and to be an influence over the melancholic temperament of man. He works really side by side with the archangel, and I will put my hand up here. I don't work with archangels at all, so the information I have is from research rather than personal experience on the archangels. But Uriel is the archangel of wisdom, inspiration, and motivation, and he kind of rules over the king and the gnomes and all of the earth elementals. There is a shape-shifting meditation in the book if you want to give it a try. Now, obviously, as there are lots of places that are associated with the element of earth, and again, I want you to think a little bit outside the box. There are the obvious ones, caves, and if you can't get to these places, meditation or visualization with photos from the internet, or there's some brilliant videos now on YouTube and other places that will take you through all these different places in the world, and you can get a real visual picture of them. But caves is perhaps an obvious one. They're really primordial, I think. They hold a certain mystery because they have that darkness. They also give me a strong connection to the crone goddess, because they're mostly hollowed out of rock, so it's got that huge earth element to it. Canyons, which is defined as a deep, often narrow gorge, ravine, or valley in the landscape. And it often has a river flowing at the bottom as well, so you get that water connection as well. Eroded, apparently, over time by running water. Don't have many canyons near me. Forest has got to be an obvious one as well. They come in all shapes and sizes. Groves is a small grove of trees. Valleys, lies the land that lies between mountains or hills. Fields and meadows. Fields, meadows, pastures, and fens, lots of different names. They're all slightly different depending on what's grown in them and how they've been tilled by man. Farms is another one to me. That's really, really earthy. All types of farms, arable, dairy, livestock, produce, combination, whatever. They all have their own unique energy. Please don't wander on a farm without permission. It's impolite for a start. It's also trespassing, but farmyards can be dangerous places. So a lot of farms, if you ask, will let you just sort of peer over the fence. But there's a lot of farms that give guided tours and things. Some of the or farm shops, and you can go into the farm shop and buy their produce. Luna suggests old rundown buildings. Yes, perfect. But again, please be careful. Gardens, obvious one perhaps. Doesn't have to be your own garden. There's lots of communal gardens, public gardens as well, and parks. Public parks are a really good place as well. And one that perhaps is more obvious to me is the kitchen. I love my kitchen. For me, it's a very, very earthy place. It's the centre of a home, and it's a very practical place. It's got that fire element as well with the cooking in it, but for me, the kitchen is quite an earthy place. Mines is an obvious one, but let's not go down this Snow White route. There are mines for jewels, obviously, but there's mines for all kinds of things: metals, minerals, salt, gold, silver, iron ore, copper, tin, loads of them. So not just the obvious. Holes and chasms. And I mean, a hole could be something as tiny as a hole in your jumper, or, an emotional hole, a hole left in your life. Basically, a hole is a hollow place in a surface. A chasm is a hole of a thing. Chasm is a deep fissure in the surface of the earth. Very extremes there, but something to explore. And one perhaps that you might not have thought about is libraries. One of the most fascinating indoor places ever. I love libraries. They hold adventure and mystery and intrigue, wisdom, reference, secrets, all sorts of stuff. Each book patiently waiting on the shelf for you to open the cover. But I think there's also something quite peaceful about stepping into a library as well, usually because you're told off making a noise. But I think of them as very earthy places with a bit of air connection as well. Garden centres and greenhouses. Love me a garden centre visit. Always like going there. They're obviously very earthy. Farmers markets and farm shops. Brilliant places to purchase locally grown produce, but also got that kind of earthy vibe to them. Uriel, the archangel, is the element earth in the north. Indeed, Becky, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Mel, I live in a rainforest in the mountains. Fantastic. Karen says the Central Library in Manchester is amazing. I will have to take your word for that, but yes, libraries are fantastic. Luna loves the smell of books. Yeah, absolutely. Karen, what about stone circles? Yes, definitely very, very earthy. Tess, slate mines in Snowdonia. Fantastic. Think about basements and cellars too. We don't have so many of them in the UK, but I know in America they have them quite a lot. I do think of them as horror films. And the murderers on TV shows are always waiting in the basement. So if you're going down into your basement, it is the element of earth, but watch out for any axe-wielding murderers while you're down there. And then crossroads. So let's have a little bit of a thing about crossroads, because you've all asked so many questions. Any crossroads is a very magical place, whether it's the centre of a dirt pathway in the woods, country lanes meeting, or even the main road, the tarmac main road. That point in the middle where the roads will cross is a really, really special place. It's a meeting place of all the four directions. So therefore, you've got all four elements. So that sweet spot in the middle is where all four elements meet. Although some crossroads can be created by 3 and not 4 pathways, that centre is the real magical spot. It links the two worlds. It links the living and the dead, the above world and the underworld. It is an in-between place, so it is really, really magical. Many traditions dedicated the crossroads to their deities. Elegba, Ra, Hecate, all very, very synonymous with crossroads. Hoodoo tricks and spells are often buried at crossroads to work their magic. Candle stubs, remains of worked spells can also be buried there. Even if you get a bridge crossing over a stream, you have created a crossroads. Definitely a magical spot and one where transformation happens. It has power, it has potential, and it offers up all sorts of choices and decisions as well. So crossroads, real sweet spot. Please be very, very careful if you're on the main road crossroads. Please don't try and bury your spells. The crossroads on a busy road. You can actually create crossroads yourself, and I did do a talk about it. I'm sure I did talk, and it'll be on the YouTube channel, about creating your own crossroads. So yeah, it is a brilliant magical place. So it's the four elements meeting, and it's the other worlds. It's living the dead. It's the underworld, overworld. It is a very, very magical place. Pathways are also magical. They're all leading to somewhere and from somewhere. Ley lines, if you're really interested in ley lines, the magical lines or dragon lines, they're often called as well, that cross the globe, crisscross across the globe. They're very, very magical. Burial sites and standing stones. Check your local library or the internet to find any sacred sites near you. You might be surprised how many places there are that you don't really or hadn't really thought about. Jackie says, I've always thought that the earth element relates to foundations. Absolutely. Earth and root chakra and strength. It is. It's foundations. It's stability. It is home. It is rock solid, basically. Soil, obviously, is the most obvious thing to work with. And it's dirt. It comes in all sorts of types and sizes and variations. But earth is grounding. It's solid. It brings stability and it brings strength. It doesn't matter if you're standing knee deep in mud at a festival or on a concrete paving in the middle of a shopping centre. There is earth somewhere beneath your feet. Soil, earth, dirt, mud, clay, all different forms of the same thing. And it can be used in all sorts of magical workings. I tend to use it with fertility, nurturing, stabilizing, grounding, manifestation, because earth is really good with prosperity and money, employment, home, protection, rebirth, good for all of those things. Good for all of those things. Oh, you are being in the back today. Sue says there's a lot of ley lines at Knowlton. Some of the strongest ley lines I've ever felt have been at Knowlton, which is on the site of an old Saxon church, but it has very strong ley lines. Mel says there's a witch's labyrinth near me. Would that fall into that category too? Oh, I would imagine so, Mel. You need to go and investigate. Go and investigate and find out. And obviously from soil, you move on to salt, which is very, very earthy element as well. Very powerful and so easy to get hold of. There are a whole load of varieties of salt. You do not need to spend huge amounts of money to buy pretty pink Himalayan salt that's been collected by monks on a Thursday morning at 5 a.m. standing on one leg with, a blindfold on. Table salt, cheap table salt. It's salt. Salt is salt is salt. Does the same thing. It's all the same element. It's a crystalline element mineral made of two elements, sodium and chlorine. It's all salt. So unless you really want to waste your money, go with that. But that's my preference. That's just how it is, really. I've got to give away a book, haven't I? I'm running out of time now. Right, I will give away the book in the next couple of minutes. I'm just going to have a quick talk about graveyard dirt because you have asked so many questions about it. It is dirt from a grave, obviously. It's dirt taken from the grave, basically, of a dead person. Let's be, brutal about it. It's often used in hexes and curses, but it can be used in protection as well. Does that make it magic? I think it depends on which grave the dirt comes from, and I think on who is wielding the spell, really. In your hands, it could go either way. I think it will also depend on what your beliefs are about dealing with or connecting with those that have passed over. I think it's got a huge amount of magical power. I think graveyards, for me, have a lot of peace and tranquility. I don't have any problems collecting and using graveyard dirt, but these days you need to be really careful that no one sees you, basically. You could be arrested, and you really don't want to be arrested for desecrating a grave. I know it's not high on my agenda, and I think this is the really important part. You need to know who was in the grave. Dirt from the graveyard of a thief or a murderer is going to be fairly toxic. Dirt from a doctor or a physician, it's going to have healing properties. Dirt from the grave of a soldier or service person will carry warrior energy. So be careful who you choose. You've got to offer. You've got to leave an offering. You've got to get to know that person. You've got to interact with that spirit before you take their dirt, basically. Do not just walk up to a random grave and take a scoopful, because you're asking for all kinds of trouble. The actual folklore behind it, to get real graveyard dirt, you've actually got to take it from just above the coffin. 3 scoopfuls, apparently, one from the head, one from the heart, and one from below the feet of the coffin. So, we're not really going to go to those kinds of lengths to get graveyard dirt. So I think, you know, for me, I think the entrance to a graveyard is just as magical. The gateway to anywhere like that is magical. It's an in-between space, so it's got that magic as well. So if you want some graveyard dirt, collect a scoopful of dirt from the entrance to the actual graveyard itself. Then you don't desecrate any graves, then you don't run any risk of taking dirt from a spirit that's unhappy about it, or one that is particularly toxic. Or just don't use it. There's plenty of other things, but I go in detail in the book about it. I think it's personal choice. Jackie says, so when you are talking about dirt, are you referring to dirt around the grave or digging deep to get it? Well, that's, you know, these days I think people just scoop it from the dirt that's right on the top, but traditionally you were supposed to dig quite deep to get it. You know, I think it is. Sarah says, what about dirt from war battle sites where there has been bloodshed? That's going to be some crazy energy dirt there. Personally, I wouldn't want to be dealing with that kind of vibe, but you could. It would have a very strong warrior energy to it, but you don't know who fell, how they fell, you know. It's the unknown, I think, with graveyard dirt. If you know the person, if you know the type of person, if you connect with the spirit, but always leave an offering if you do collect it. Personally, I'd collect it from the gateway. But you know. So let me do this very quick spell because I am going to run out of time here because it's already been an hour. You guys would be bored listening to me waffle on. So I'm going to give away a book. I'm going to have a quick Jackie Fallon Holloway, the book is yours. Send me a PM with your message, with your address, and I will pop it in the post to you. Signed copy. That's that done. So Fiona says, could you use earth-related hedgerow foraged berries from the edge of a graveyard instead of the soil? Would they be imbued with the same energy? They would have the energy from the berries. The type of berry would have its own energy as well. But it would be interesting to work with, Fiona, definitely interesting. Use your intuition on this, guys. You've got to know whether it feels right for you. Karen says, if you got it from a crossroad of paths in the cemetery, would that be good to use? Spot on, absolutely spot on, Karen. That would be brilliant. Mel, once hot cemetery dirt from a Church of England burial area. I walked back to my car and all of my radiator hoses had broken by the time I came back to my car. Yeah, needless to say, I returned the dirt. Yes, you gotta. There's a lot of preparation work into collecting graveyard dirt. It's not something you just do without thinking about it. There's a lot of preparation and there's a lot of work and thought goes into it. So do think about it very, very carefully. But I do go into detail in the book. I think it's also, I talk about it in the one of my other books, the Wild Witchcraft book. I talk about it as well. So I've got a little spell here, quick spell for you before I go, because I've got so much stuff here that I could have talked about that and I've got to. So let's do a quick spell for you. Balancing your finances. We could all do with some of that. This is really, really simple. You need a shell, a pebble. I happen to have a hagstone, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a pebble, plastic band or a piece of string, and a marker pen. Simple, simple. So the shell represents the element of water. For some reason, the shell has glitter on it. I think it must have been used for a craft project at some point. So the shell represents the element of water. So this is the part of you that makes you impulse buy based on your emotions and your feeling. I bet we've all done it. Pebble is the element of earth, and this covers finances, property, grounding, and stability. This is the element of earth that puts our feet firmly back on the ground and brings a stability to our spending. Earth is strongly associated with prosperity and all of the material things in life. So using your marker pen, draw a pound or a dollar sign from the shell. I'm going to draw a very bad pound sign on the shell. Then you draw one on the pebble. Draw one on the pebble as well. So I've drawn a pound sign on the pebble as well. It can be dollars, can be something else that you associate with money. Hold one in each hand. Sit quietly and visualize yourself making sensible purchases. See your bank account nice and healthy and your savings too. Paint a picture inside your head of you and your family being financially stable, paying back loans, receiving extra money. Visualization is really key in this as well. Let it take you where it needs to go. When you're ready, place the shell and the pebble together. You're really helpful today. Place the shell and the pebble together and then put the elastic band around it. Bit tricky. Make sure that the pound signs are facing each other. So you want the pound signs in facing each other together. Wrap the elastic band or string around them and tie them securely. Bonding of them is important. This shows the universe that you are committed to being financially sensible and that you are worthy of receiving. As you bind them, Ness says Eric's making me laugh. He's going to be put out in the shed in a minute, Ness. As you bind them together, say, element of water, bring my emotions and spending habits into check. Element of earth, stability and security are now at my call and beck. Binding is now secure and let the magic flow, make it so. Then you place the spell on the pebble where you can see it regularly, somewhere on your bedside table, mantelpiece, or on your altar. This reminds you that the magic is working. So really, really straightforward and easy to do. Using the element of earth and using the element of water, but just with really simple objects. Jackie says, so before you start, make sure they fit. Yes, it is it is more helpful if they fit together, but with your elastic band, it shouldn't be too bad. Make sure they're similar sorts of sizes, but literally a spell and a pebble, that's, you know. Yes, Mel, the spell is in the book. That is one of the earth spells that's in the book. There are, I say, there's lots of herbs, there's lots of crystals, there's all sorts of things, but there's so much that I could have gone through. Jackie says, can you do this spell for others and gift them the shell and the pebble? Yes, but you would need to, I would give them the pebble and the shell to do it, and instructions, because then it's got their intent and their energy in it. Give it to them as a gift spell to put together would be my suggestion. It's going to be stronger. The power of it's going to be stronger if they've actually worked the magic themselves. But there's a lot more in the book, an awful lot more in the book. There are crystal suggestions, all of the earth ones. There are herbs, there are foods, there's incense blends, there's how to make kifi, which is an Egyptian incense, which is fab. There's essential oil recipes as well. Jackie says, so you would do it with them. I'd just write out the instructions for them, Jackie, and get them to do it. But yes, you could talk them through it step by step. I think any spell is going to be stronger if you do it yourself. Someone else is doing it for you, it's going to lose a bit of energy and it's going to get a bit lost in translation. The person themselves needs to do the spell, particularly with something like that. But there's all sorts of stuff in here as well. There's tree magic, there's sticks and twig information. You can work all sorts of magic with sticks and twigs. There's magical food suggestions. There's recipes in here as well, obviously, because it's mine. Several recipes in there for various things. Peanut butter, banana oatmeal cookies, parking, mead and blackberry cupcakes, bacon tart, all sorts of nice earthy recipes in there as well. All the crystal suggestions as well for earth-related crystals, they're all associated with earth animals as well: badgers, bears, boars, deer, stags, dogs, donkeys, all sorts. I also give some suggestions as well for working different exercises and for doing things to, not physical exercises, that wouldn't be, no. Magical spiritual exercises to bring you more in balance and to help you connect with the element of earth. And there's different deities suggestions as well, a whole list of those. There's also quite a lot of meditations in here as well to help you connect with it. There's even an earth ritual in there as well, if you wanted to work that. for yourself or with a group. And I say lots of spells. That one I've just done is included in there as well. Quite a lot of prosperity magic connected with the element of earth, and some protection spells as well. Various bits and pieces. Oh, divination. So some suggestions for earth-related divinations, and then I deal with the zodiac symbols that are connected with earth as well, and a little bit about helping to save our planet, because it does need a little bit of help. And I'll finish with an earth blessing, along with all the practical things you can do to help Mother Earth. I think it also helps to send her some healing energy every so often and thank her for all that she does. Doesn't have to be a long ceremony, doesn't have to be complicated. Keep it simple. Just light a candle in her honor and sit quietly and visualize healing energy going towards her. We have to do the practical stuff as well, but it's nice to give her a little blessing every so often. And as always, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. There's so much more to cover, but time eludes me once again. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to Moon Books for publishing the books as well. Do have a look at the Moon Books website. They have some fantastic authors on there. For anybody that's free on a Friday morning, I do a regular Friday morning chat, 9 AM on my author page. Here on the Moon Books page, every fortnight, myself and Ellen Sentier do a Shooting the Wild Witch Breeze chat, so catch us on a Thursday evening. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for all your continued support. And as always, if anyone has any questions, do just message me. I'm always really, really happy to help. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the evening, rest of the day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much, guys.